So my name is Hari Srinivasan. I'm here to talk about cloud security. When I talk about cloud security, many aspects are diverse between different areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a picture of what is like a 360-degree picture of what is meant by cloud security. How does it differentiate? How does it differ from infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure on a whole? I'm giving you a conversation around that. So before we get started, let's identify how does a modern IT look like. Um, on premises, this is where we all started. Then we are slowly moving to cloud, and especially multiple clouds. The next evolution is like we are already been talking for the past year or so, containers. And guess what? Next year we probably might be talking more about serverless. No more containers, probably serverless. I don't know what's the next evolution look like. Maybe nothing. Um, So it's a hybrid world with a varied set of IT infrastructure. So your cloud security needs or the security needs to differ depending upon the deployment model you're following, but overall practices and processes still remain the same. When I think about the biggest challenge in terms of any of these transformation, after R&D, one of the bottlenecks which comes up into all of this is security. Is my data secure? Am I giving access to the right people? Is it working in the way in which my organizations are used to work? And finally, the interesting people whom we all love, the auditors. Can I satisfy my auditors at the end of the day and give them a report which can actually work and make sure that they're satisfied with it, right? So security becomes a top concern when you talk about cloud. So when I see cloud, what I meant by cloud is not just maybe here I'm in Azure, I'm going to talk a lot more about Azure, but in general, there's an adoption of cloud where it is multi-cloud. Basically, people are adopting multiple clouds wherein they have their databases in one environment. Probably they have their machine learning running in another cloud. They have their marketing campaign and other things. It just uses infrastructure as a service in third cloud. So they are distributing their cloud dependency and that's almost like an insurance policy for them depending upon availability. At the same time, regionalization. I am going to go to Japan, I have my business going into Japan, I would pick the cloud, which is actually the best provider for the Japanese area. So multi-cloud is a reality, and that's where people are moving towards. When you think about cloud security, this is a very known slide or known area. You have a shared security responsibility model. You need to think about your data and workloads as you go towards cloud. Cloud providers hold the keys to the kingdom. They protect their physical infrastructure and to a level data and stuff, but you are primarily responsible for your workloads and data which you bring. This differs between different layers: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So we need to look at all the three areas separately and see that what are all the things which need to be there. But how I'm going to kind of divert this conversation is, I'm going to talk about, sorry about the bullet structure. I think something happened with my moved presentation across multiple laptops. So what I'm going to tell you about is the threat and the solution which you need to think about when you're thinking about cloud. Let's start with a simple, straightforward one. Software. What software you bring in? Which cycle of your deployment cycle will you bring this software in? Where do you bring this from? So that's one of the primary thing to look for. The second attribute is your compliance. You need to look for, are you deploying in a standard environment? Are you positioning this to be running as per your company standards? That's second one. Third one, breaches and malware. This doesn't leave us around, right? So there is still, you need to check for whether you have breaches. So mostly, we always identify breach post-breach, not during the breach. So you need to have detection mechanism for your malware breaches. And four, hygiene. Simple transactions, which in this new modern world, your companies actually have mobile phones, bring your own devices. They all connect to different servers from different places, have a mobile workforce. As they connect and use your application, both from a consumer perspective and also from your own internal user perspective, the interactions which happens across the network is important. Having certificates and making sure that those certificates are not expired and up to date, and having a proper connection is highly important when you think about security. Another aspect of it, file and configuration changes. PCI mandates this thing, file integrity monitoring. In addition to it, you have compliance regulations, which actually talks about it. In general, a hygiene practice is having an immutable environment. So in order to check for immutability, one of the primary things to look for is configuration changes and file changes. We're looking at that. And of course, all cloud providers are now providing you with a great set of tools to encrypt your data which is at rest. You also need to think about data encryption as it kind of passes through the flight. And finally, when we talk about cloud, this doesn't leave us behind. It's extremely elastic, it's extremely ephemeral. Instances get spun up, spun down based upon the demand. So we are looking at an elastic ephemeral environment to look forward to secure it. So those are the threads, which if I may, the 7 layers of threads which you probably want to look into as you talk about it. From a solution perspective, the first aspect, just the whole thing got skipped. So the first aspect of it is about visibility. I'm from Qualys. I'm going to show pictures which is related to Qualys, but the idea here is getting you visibility across your workload. Understand what you have, know what you have will lead you to kind of understand how you secure them. Giving you a visibility into what you have and the security posture is highly important. That's the first which you kind of roll into as you kind of move forward. Get the inventory, know which departments are using your projects, and out of which, what's your security coverage like, and out of the security coverage, what are the different status of posture? How does your vulnerability posture look like compared to compliance? And how does your other file integrity monitoring look as far as your assets are concerned? Looking into a security posture is important. Then, as I roll forward, I'm going to talk about the other set of cloud. So there's an injection slide. I think it just got slipped. But what I want to provide you with the picture is gaining visibility is important. At the same time, having to do all these operations in an automated, seamless fashion, as far as your cloud is concerned, is another important aspect to look into. So let's move forward. Another area of cloud which we normally kind of miss out, because depending upon the teams which you belong to, a cloud architect team might be looking at differently from a security team or an IT team. So when an IT team or a cloud architect team is looking at it, they're looking at it from a resource perspective of what you're using. One of the areas to look for in terms of cloud security is the overarching infrastructure. Identifying and understanding what accounts, what projects are there, are they misconfigured? We are sitting in Azure, but over the period of time, we have heard a lot about S3 bucket leakage as it comes to AWS, security groups opening up things to public. So any kind of a misconfiguration or non-standard deployment can lead to data leakage. The previous slide, which we talked about, hardening your infrastructure based upon vulnerability compliance application is not sufficient if you don't, so it's not just sufficient. You also need to kind of look for the overarching cloud or the overarching cloud infrastructure. So when you talk about that, one of the interesting tools to use is CIS tool to run its benchmarks against your cloud, giving you an assessment of all the resources which are there as a part of your cloud provider and giving you a visibility into what you have and what's the security posture of it. CIS actually has a web services benchmark which got recently released for Azure. So if you have your deployments in Azure, one of the things which you need to look for the CIS foundation benchmark to secure your Azure workloads. This can be propagated back to your cloud infrastructure team, or this can be propagated back to your IT team, or it can be taken over by the security team to kind of give a complete picture of what's going on in that environment. So when you talk about cloud, you need visibility. That's a key. You need continuous security. It needs to be agile and elastic as just like your environment. Then as you move forward, everything needs to be automated. It's better to, when we talk about cloud, there's a new notion about infrastructure as a code. I would recommend that we'll also be start thinking about software security as a code. Injecting things as a part of the whole coding process, injecting things as a part of your infrastructure building process is key. So to this being done in a transparent way across a hybrid IT gives you a better posture, better visibility and better posture and better security against wherever you're deploying your environments. So let's move forward. This is all we talked about technology. What about people? What ends up happening between the security team and the DevOps team is this is a conversation. This is reality. Security teams always think that DevOps team thinks about rainbows, and all they need to do is think about cleaning them out. So the aspect which is important here is how do you have this make this conversation happen between these players? How do you make this work? So the DevSecOps needs to be in a model where security is injected as a part of development team. So where security needs to think about doing things in an automated fashion or think like an engineer. So that's a very key thing to do, and inject into the process using APIs and plugins into the CI/CD tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 3 customer stories who actually address this area. In terms of shift in thinking, shift left is a very popular moment when it comes to DevOps. DevSecOps is all about shifting left, your security being shifting left along with it. So what I'm going to talk about is how they did it in a different time, as in like moving ahead, but just not moving ahead for the sake of being ahead in time, but making sure that they are able to inject themselves in a proper time to give actionable data, which can result in a more secure environment. Second thing is about technique. It's all about automation. It's all about thinking as code. And third one is tools. I'm not asking you to go behind a new set of vendors, but we are current existing vendors. If you're using Qualys, you are in a better hands. If current existing vendors, look for them, ask them if they have REST APIs for their environment, if they have plugins for their for your CI/CD tools of choice. Ask them this question and look and kind of integrate them into the process. So look for the right tools which integrate just not with the process, also with the people across the board, right? So as you kind of look, let me show you what a regular cycle looks like. A developer pushes the code that gets built by Bamboo or Jenkins. It goes into Puppet, Ansible, or Kubernetes, and it gets deployed either as cloud, non-cloud, or as containers. As we think about security, we need to think about in the first segment itself, static code analysis. That's one area to look for. The next security line is to think about from a Jenkins perspective. How can I plug it into my CI/CD tool? And then, of course, the end one is always there, which is your environment. You're looking at your standard production environment and looking at security. So from a security DevOps engineer perspective, now if you notice, we're now talking about DevSecOps engineer. It's no more just a security professional, just our security team. Talking about an engineering team involving themselves along with security as they kind of build their code or build their applications. So their requirement is to automate security and get visibility into what is going on with actionable data. So I'll talk about these 3 layers. They kind of move out of this conversation, you at least have some clear set of indicators across different layers which you do and what you can do forward. How are those 7 threats which we talked about spread across these 3 layers and what you can do about it? First one is infrastructure. So how many of you are running infrastructure in Azure today? Okay, across almost all of you. Thank you. So there are 2 companies which I want to talk about, both having cloud-based infrastructure. One is a top US bank, another one is a retail company. I'll tell you more about how they did things in cloud like Azure and also within Azure also. The top US bank changed their way in which they are doing things. They used to have a notion between the ops team and the security team having a handshake between them, or almost took them 2 weeks to kind of get through this whole process, wherein the DevOps team were building code, the ops team were building code, security team was checking for security, giving them feedback, having this fixing, having them fix these things, yeah? So when they moved forward, what they did was, they took the process in a different way. They identified those images, identified those applications, what are the base images for those applications. They ran a scan to check and ensure that you have all the vulnerabilities or known issues identified ahead in time. As they hardened those instances, they also injected agents. Need not be Qualys agent, of course. I'm from Qualys, so I'm looking at all the pictures from Qualys, but need not be Qualys agent. It can be other agents too. In this case, they even injected another plethora of 10 agents into it. Splunk, Neuralink, a bunch of these things went into this picture, not just the Qualys. So inject the agent and get those final approved copy of the image. This is your base image which you're using for your rest of your application. As you spin this out, it kind of communicates. Since you have agents, it communicates back live into your cloud or live back into the portal. The idea of here being you get instantaneous visibility of everything which is happening in cloud. As much as it's elastic, it is still being visible as a part of it. This process, guess what? It took them 24 hours compared to doing it over a period of 2 weeks. Completely automated, completely gone through a cycle wherein they use REST APIs to communicate across the teams and do this automation end to end. And another case study is of the retail company. The problem they were having is they were moving to this multi-cloud environment. They were looking at Azure. When I talked to them, they had 5,000 instances deployed. I think now they have 20,000 instances deployed. The idea here is they integrated Qualys. Qualys integrates with Azure Security Center for vulnerability management. Azure Security Center is a space for collapsing all of your security outlook of your Azure deployments. Along with it, it also has a program to bring your own vendors into the Azure Security Center. Qualys integrates with Azure Security Center for vulnerability management. So the idea being here is, when a virtual machine is being spun up, doesn't matter which project, it spins up a virtual machine, the agent gets automatically installed as a part of it. This ensures that the IT teams don't need to have an overhead or thinking about, okay, I need to automate this process. So that kind of gets taken away. The second step is your developers have an opportunity to look for problems as they go through the cycle. It will make your life easy as a security professional or your life easy as a DevOps professional when the data is available right there during their process. So this integration helps them with that. Provides them a way to have the tool as a part of the process, giving them visibility into all the vulnerabilities and all the issues they have within their tool chain or within their process within Azure. So Azure Security Center integration helps reduce ops overhead of managing security tools and enables or empowers your developer to take action during their process itself, not again, without leaving the console which they're used to. Talk about web applications. Let's talk about the next one. A typical sprint cycle looks like this. There's a 2-week sprint cycle. I, as a developer, I'm an application developer. I'm working on a user story. I build it across the 2 weeks. In the first week, after I'm done with my development, I start testing. I run some Selenium tests to kind of make sure, including other code tests, I run some Selenium tests to make sure that my application behaves as it is supposed to behave. As a part of it, I can inject some web application testing too, to make sure that the security is taken care of at the get-go or during the development itself. Any issues coming from it is added directly to Jira. The same cycle, the issue gets repeated back. Like, you can run back the cycle after fixing it, rerun the whole cycle again, and identify if there are problems as a part of it and resolve it. And this process is being made possible by inclusion within the DevOps pipeline. This is how typically the environment looks like. You have Jenkins, which spits out environment from dev, test, and prod. As you kind of move through this process, injecting a web application scanning as a part of this utility. It is seamlessly integrating into the CI/CD process, is helping these application developers, me as an application developer, if I assume, helps me to kind of make sure that my code is not just ready for my business, but also secure. So Qualys provides you with a plugin to kind of integrate with Jenkins. Again, your security tool which you're looking for asks the same question. Do you have a plugin? Do you have a REST API to plug it into the process? And interestingly enough, the information is available right within the framework. The last evolution which you're talking about will be containers. How many of you have container deployments, or you think that maybe you're owner of applications, or 1, 2, AXA doesn't do? You're also doing, sir. Anybody else have container deployments as a part of their IT environments? Okay, a few more. So what we do in terms of when you think about containers, it's again an injection. So this is going to be interesting. 2019, your conversations would be a little different. When I ask you about containers, everybody might be raising the hand. Another aspect which is also happening is a lack of visibility into what the IT environments exist like. So if you're thinking about containers, you're thinking about all the whole cycle. Build, registry, runtime, and host. All of these are important. This can be broken down into a pre- and post-deployment phase. A pre-deployment phase includes build and the registry environment. This is where you kind of bake the Docker image. This is where you ship the Docker image to the rest of your development team. A post-deployment phase is your runtime, where you're running containers or you're running this on a particular set of hosts. In Azure, Azure actually has Azure Kubernetes engine where you can spin up container deployments automatically. So you need to think about all of this even in a deployment like that. Yeah? So when you talk about security, the first integration point of security is in the pipeline, integrating into the DevOps pipeline and making sure that you're enabling your DevOps team by having this process of identifying issues in the Docker image itself as they are being baked, and providing them an opportunity to fix those Docker images and moving it forward. If there is a problem, you push it back, you fail the build, push the information back, and then move it forward. This process is made available via Qualys, and of course other vendors also doing the same, which is important to think about in the CI/CD pipeline, injecting this even in this application model called containers, which is extremely popular for your DevOps world. So, and this next part is whenever you're thinking about information, again, making information available within the process chain and making that information actionable. So I have information about vulnerabilities. I understand what are the installed software I have and what can I fix. So that information is crucial for me to take an action and move it forward. As I roll through this, I repeat and rinse and repeat the process to make my Docker images secure, and I push this further to the repositories from where a secure set of images is being used by the rest of my application. Qualys, that kind of brings me to the end of this conversation. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Qualys. So what does Qualys provide? For the hybrid IT, which is varied between your data center, even within your data center, IT connected network, maybe your IP phones, maybe your laptops which you're bringing in, or mobile workforce which you're getting in. From there, all the way to deployments in cloud. In cloud, thinking about containers, all of this under one security umbrella. We provide a software as a service security model to support asset management, vulnerability management, compliance, and application security for this entire suite of IT. For Azure perspective, across a varied resource set of Azure, we cover a complete way. For virtual machines, we provide you with security. For web application scanning, web apps which you're deploying, we provide you with web application scanning and firewall. For container engine, we provide with container security. We just saw about a use case. And for the rest of the resources is this overarching cloud or cloud view, which we provide visibility into what you have, and it gives you assessment of your configuration. So extending this further in Azure, we also now support securing Azure Stack. So if you are companies who are having a disjointed environment where you are deploying Azure Stack as a part of your environment, we support extension of security into Azure Stack, all within the same single platform. Again, one more thing is, whatever I talked about cloud, you can get started getting the visibility into what you have in cloud for free. It's available for Azure too. It supports Azure, supports Amazon. Soon it will support Google too. But if you have environments which you can just kind of plug this in with a single connection, just one step to know, connect your accounts, to know what resources we are using in cloud and how much is being used by different people. You get to kind of understand this. And it's completely free, and this functionality is available to sign up directly from Qualys.com. That brings me to the end of this conversation. Again, I need to plug this in to kind of let you know that there is a feedback forum for the event, for the talk, for the speaker. Please go ahead, punch it away. Thank you so much for your patience and kindness to be here. I know it's a busy session. Thanks for all your time. Really appreciate it. I hope you gained something back from it. Thank you.